Okay, with it being after 7 o'clock, we'll call the July 17th meeting in order. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what'd you think of the national anthem Monday from that girl?
I agree, we're live.
Worst one ever.
Oh, yeah.
No, Roseanne was the worst one ever.
I don't know.
Roseanne Barr, she was the worst one. Yeah, she was
Thought
worse
she
than,
was funny, the other one thought she was drunk, and they were both right.
She was
On
drunk.
another
and,
TV.
and both of them were under
Yeah.
the influence at the time they did it.
I wonder if they still paid her. She admitted she was drunk.
I don't know, that's information, that's above our pay grade.
Yeah, I know.
First order.
Alrighty.
Now they're done with our first matter.
Certificate of Compliance, 242-1679-1920, Great Pond Road, continued till August 14th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1825, Royal Crest.
Alrighty. This order, issued in October of 2021, governed removing existing aging subsurface propane tanks and associated piping and installing new above-ground tanks with concrete pads servicing a majority of the buildings on site, with 13 buildings located within the 100-foot buffer zone. A few buildings' underground tanks were within the 25-foot no disturb zone, and all new tanks are located outside the 50-foot no build. Last week, the Conservation Field Inspector conducted a site inspection and found the work areas to be stable. All erosion controls have been removed, and work areas in general compliance with the approved plan. All new tanks have been installed on concrete blocks set into gravel bases instead of the concrete pads, so a little more pervious. And 6 out of the 13 tanks received small wooden fences surrounding 3 sides. A tank at Building 8 received a couple of concrete jersey barriers located between the tank and the parking area, which is a good protective measure. This doesn't affect this filing or this certificate of compliance, but it should be noted that based on these plans were based on the 2019 ORAD that is now expired, and with the past year and a half rains and things like that, the hydrology changed a little bit, so I think the wetlands have shifted a little. So that's just something to keep in mind for the future. But as far as this filing, the tanks are in compliance. Chris Sparagis with Williams and Sparagis is here this evening if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Isolated,
There's a lot of isolated wetlands, and there's 1 or 2 systems that are BVWs. Yeah, a lot of little pockets out there.
No questions.
Questions?
My question was actually going to go to the old filing as well. So it was an ORAD, did they complete all of the work on that, or was it the ORAD just to define
It's
the line?
just to find the wetland
And
lines.
then they brought in project by project by project individually, correct?
Yeah, and then this propane tank project, the ORAD was still valid at that
So
time.
we use that line?
Yes.
Which is fair enough, right?
Right.
It's fair
Yep.
enough.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a good observation that, get them through this, but the next project that comes in, they're gonna have
It's
to
gonna, yeah,
redo the line.
they're gonna have to redo the lines. They
I'm
will.
all set.
No more questions, have a motion?
Move to close and issue a complete COC with ongoing conditions as prescribed in the order of conditions.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. All
Thank you
set.
very much.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming, Chris.
Yep, anytime.
Okay.
Small project, NACC, number 328, 340 Johnston Street.
All righty. This project entails installing 65 feet of 4-foot white vinyl picket fence along an existing rock wall at the front of the yard of 340 Johnson Street. This will be a standalone section of fence and will not enclose any portion of the property. It will act as a precautionary barrier between the front lawn and the road. The jurisdictional wetland areas impacted by the project is the 200-foot riverfront area associated with an unnamed perennial stream in Lake Kachikwick watershed. The entire 65 feet of fencing will be located in the outer 200-foot riverfront, approximately 110 feet from the stream at its closest point. The fence is outside the 100-foot buffer zone to the associated bordering vegetated wetland associated with that stream, and outside the 100-foot buffer to a small pond at the rear of the property. Very straightforward. Recommend that you find this project to qualify under Category H, which governs fences that do not alter the surface water flow or wildlife movement, and conditions that require scheduling a pre-construction meeting with the Conservation Department staff, the contractor, and the homeowner just to ensure project understanding. Any excess soils from post holes shall be taken off-site or distributed on-site outside the buffer zone. And then schedule a post-construction meeting with the Conservation Department just to ensure that work is complete in compliance.
Thank you. Fred?
No, it looks like it pretty clearly complies with the, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
No questions?
The only question I have, you think the vinyl fence is gonna stop a car from coming across the front yard?
Drop a ball.
There you go.
They're going over the wall.
Keep the keep them running out.
Joe,
No question.
motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we find that this project qualifies under Category H, and accordingly, I move that we approve it as described with recommendations as listed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. All set.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you.
Thanks.
Next one, number 329, 56 Bridges Lane.
Alrighty. This project has 3 separate small project elements, 2 within jurisdiction and 1 that is outside. The first is installing about 190 feet of aluminum fencing to enclose the lawn. And at its closest point, the fence will be 50 feet from the BVW at the rear of the property. Some sections of the fence will be even outside the buffer. Demolition of an existing 16 by 10 deck and stairs and replacing it with a new 12 by 10 deck in the same location at 120 square feet. The new deck will not have stairs and will be located farther from the wetland than the existing deck. At its closest point, the new deck will be about 70 feet from the BVW. And then finally, the third element, which is outside of the commission's jurisdiction, is construction of a 20 by 12 deck and stairs off the sunroom at the back of the house. At its closest point, it's exactly 100 feet from the BVW, based on field inspection by the field inspector. And we just added that so you understand that that's going to happen. And, you know, thinking about like what surface treatment should be under the deck. I know like crushed stone is sort of a regular thing, but we wanted to just, make sure the commission was aware. Homeowner's here this evening if you have any questions for him. But this application would come under a Category H for the fence and then a Category B replacement, or roughly replacement of existing decks.
Right?
And then some conditions.
Does the wetland line appear on any of these?
I'm sorry?
Does the wetland line appear on any of these exhibits?
No, the yellow line you see is the proposed fence, and then I did kind of 2 yellow lines from that show the distance to the wetland at 2 points. So it's 50 feet at the closest, and then
Okay. so
90 feet
50
on the other
That
side.
corner right there is the very closest?
Yep.
Okay. And you say it's a black aluminum fence, so it's not gonna inhibit drainage at all?
No, yeah, just like the black aluminum that you would see.
Perfect. I'm all set.
Just curious, the area inside the fence, is that all existing lawn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all.
No questions.
Any questions, Joe?
Glad Sean arrived, because I was thinking about it. It took 350 applications of small projects to get before us, for me to ever wonder, was the intent of the crafting of this that we could compound multiple projects? I guess you'd have to look at the total impact, but I don't think we really thought of it as many different elements comprising one small project.
No, you make a good point, and I noticed that when she said which categories we were gonna be under, but it doesn't bother me.
No, this instance, I don't see any one of them, or even collectively having any impact at all, but I was just kind of curious, what might the next one look like?
I asked the same.
Well, they can bring them separately, right?
Sure,
I
right?
asked
That is
Amy the
something
same question
that-
today.
That I talked about with Lou, and I did talk about when it was first proposed, but, you know, again, looking at sort of the scope and the impact.
No, and I agree, I have no issue
Yeah,
with the project
yeah.
whatsoever, but it just made me
No, I
little-
get that.
Pause a little bit to think about it.
Cognizant of that. Yeah, when you
So,
start
okay.
piling it on, then again, it kind of gets.
Yeah, but conversely, why force somebody to come in front of us twice with two separate small projects
Right.
because of some
Right.
rule or regulation?
Right.
It only hurts in case we don't like one object.
Right.
Everything else gets held
I
up.
would rather know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, our charge at the time, when we were doing this, was to make it easier for the average
Streamline it.
homeowner to not have to hire an engineer and do an RDA or something, so.
And to protect our phony baloney jobs.
And that too, yeah. So, anyway, that was our, part of our charge when we created
Yeah.
it, so. I think we're on point here.
So we need a motion.
So I had suggested some conditions that include installation of erosion controls between the limit of the fence and the wetland, and then a pre-construction with the respective contractors, the fence and the deck contractor, just to make sure that we know what we're doing and we're all on the same page, and then post-construction meeting, just to ensure that, compliance with the offsets, and then approval of removal of the erosion control.
I would probably add one more, those are great conditions, but I would add one more, and that is, just based on the aerial photography, I can't really determine whether that's all shadow or some of it near the fence line is actual vegetation. So again, they could clear right up to the 25 without much issue, but I think other than pruning to make way for the fence, no tree removal would be
Okay.
permitted without consulting with the
Okay.
agent first.
It is all existing on, the shadow is casting
Yeah.
into it.
You know, one of the trees looks bare and the shadow looks
Yeah,
thinner, but
yeah.
there is some evergreens on the lower part of the photo, I really couldn't tell from, but, yeah, you've been on the site.
Yeah, and there were some hazardous tree removals approved, so I actually don't think that big pine is there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
All set.
Motion?
I move as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. All
So
set.
we'll get that permit to you probably early next week. Okay, great, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Okay, modification, 242-1880, 531 Boston Street.
Alrighty. All right, so the commission will recall that an order of conditions was issued in January of 2024, and it governs the construction of a new single-family house, septic system, driveway, associated grading, utilities, and landscaping. The portions of the work in jurisdiction included the driveway, the front walkway, a small section of the house, and utility connections, and the front yard grading. And that was within the outer reaches of the 100-foot buffer zone associated with a wetland across the street. The builder is coming in for an after-the-fact modification to properly permit an extension to the driveway for a turnaround so as to allow exiting vehicles avoid backing out onto Boston Street. So the purple area on the plan here is the additional area of pavement that is, a corner of it is in the buffer and the rest of it's outside. So that was, that added up to about 260 square feet. And at its closest point, it's 90 feet from the wetland across the street. So not all of the 260 is in the buffer. I had asked the contractor to confirm with the project engineer that the addition of that pavement did not interfere with the flow out along the front, where that slight swale is underneath or below it. It doesn't appear to be, but this seems like something the commission would approve. But the contractor's here this evening if you have questions for him.
Brad?
So it's already built that way?
This is an after the fact.
After the fact.
You hit the oops fee.
I'm all set right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm all set for now.
Al?
You, Kevin?
I'm Kevin.
Yeah, you think this is insignificant, this filing?
I do. Mr. Chairman and board members, for the record, my name is Kevin O'Brien. I am one of the builders out there on this piece of property. Working out there, we probably should have had that turnaround on the original plan. Boston Street is pretty busy, so that's why we decided to do that. We're at the point right now, which I wanted to talk to the board after we deal with this, is talking about how I want to do the landscaping out there and sodding, and I have more pictures for you to look at, so if we can get, or I can blend that right with the discussion right now if you'd like.
So when you completed the work, you were not under the opinion that you needed a permit?
A permit for what?
For the work, you're here now for an after-the-fact permit.
Well, what we did is we knew we wouldn't make it to the.
Okay,
It's a modification.
modification
It's
still,
what we're talking
the modification is tantamount to being a permit because it allows the work to take place. So referring to it as a permit, I think is fair game. So you did the work without a permit?
That driveway is incorrect.
Okay, I'm good for right now.
Look at the drive, it's not the way I would do it. That's okay. I'm all set, like I said. That's a pretty, was a pretty big. Oops.
I don't have any questions.
So,
It's funny how sometimes the request is pretty straightforward, though it may be a little embarrassing that the work's already done, but, the request is straightforward, and they provide photographs that pretty much show how good it looks and maybe even justifies why the need's there. But in doing that, they show you the erosion controls that have totally failed.
No, well, actually, I know, they need maybe some sprucing up, but honestly, this project has had 0 incidences of erosion off-site.
So I just remember the hearing itself.
Yep.
A neighbor immediately to the north, I think it is, to the right as you're looking at the
Yeah, yeah,
photographs.
yep.
His concern was that runoff that came down what was the old country drainage
Mm-hmm.
ditch, finds its way to a low area by his property.
Yeah, yeah.
And the concern was the water moves there, so, I mean, I think the hay bales along that area was to prevent that from happening and migrating out to the street
Yeah.
and elsewhere. So, I mean, it looks to me that it's at least compromised. Again, I'm looking at a dry, arid condition, photographs on July, we received on July 2nd.
Yep.
It's been, when it hasn't been wet, it's been a very dry summer. So, maybe it has been good, but,
Yeah.
I mean, to ask for a modification and really kind of be non-compliant with erosion controls is kind of counter-logical to me. So I think that at the very least, if we grant the modification, we should also require that they freshen up the erosion controls per
yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
But I'd also like, not to interrupt you, but what I'd also like to do is pass out pictures of what I'm looking to another request we're asking for tonight. Same gentleman we're talking about that made that comment is the John Durst. He's on the right-hand side. You'll see in this package that the first email is from him. He's requesting that we take the silt fence out and the wattles out along his property, and we're gonna ask that we take them out in the front also along the street, which is what you're talking about, and finish landscaping, finish looming, put a sprinkler system in, and install sod to the back right hand on the plan, the back right hand corner of the house, so we're out of the 100-foot buffer, and the same thing on the left side, the back left hand corner of the house. We'll sprinkle and sod that whole area. As you can see in his email, he and I have talked about that, and we're looking to put that swale in. If you look at the pictures, the first picture you have in that set is looking from the driveway down towards John's house. The next 6 pictures show all along his property, and the last 2 pictures show me standing at the house looking down into his property. I just think it's gonna be a lot neater and cleaner if we do it that way, and don't have the silt fence and the erosion control until after, when we sod it, we'll sod up to the edge of his yard, and we won't have any imperfections or any.
So let me get this straight. You want to remove the perimeter controls and then stabilize the site?
With sod,
That's what I heard.
with sod.
That's exactly what.
Is that going to happen in one day?
We want to loom it?
Yeah, I mean, when you're going to remove the erosion controls, then you're going to sod it all in one day?
No, we can't do it all one day.
Of course not. So the answer is no.
Yeah, you
Keep the erosion controls in place, stabilize
sod.
99.9% of the site except the perimeter, go back and do that last strip at the very end. Yeah.
I mean, if it's a job you can do in one day, you can guarantee it's not going to rain during that day, okay. But I'm not going to approve. I mean, that's straight up dirt right into that guy's yard. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
You can see in the pictures that I've shown you when Amy was out there again today with me, there's no erosion on that property, nothing.
We had a
I mean, yes,
rainstorm,
you could
though.
say it's dry.
would.
Well, I could see areas of the perimeter protection that is inundated, areas that are broken.
And that's recent. I mean, it hasn't been like that for the majority of the, because
Yeah, so
loam
we're-
was
But
just
the
brought
water-
up.
Telling, justifying that the need is there.
Yeah.
The
For
water
erosion
goes down
controls.
off the street, in our driveway, and into the front yard. That's what you're seeing with that swale that's along the property.
Why would you think it would be difficult to do as Joe said?
Like everybody
So
does.
you'd have to
Like a-
phase it, I guess. You'd have to phase it, or wait till you get the sod on site and just remove erosion, put the sod down,
Put it
remove the
up,
erosion, put the
Go
sod
within
down.
10 foot of the border,
Yeah.
all around, and then put the last edge in.
He's got a good half a day of grading to begin with, before he even thinks about sod. You're gonna sod that?
Yeah.
that-
Now,
that-
definitely want the
that-
erosion controls in place while he's grading.
Yeah.
So what if we were to take the erosion control out along his property line, which he doesn't have a problem with, and loomed it, put the sprinkler system in, put wattles back up, and then when the sod comes, take those wattles out and don't put those back up?
You'd want the wattles upstream of the sod.
I would take the wattles out when we sod. Those will be removed. But if everyone's saying,
But if
it's not a day job. It just won't happen in a day. It's a couple of days between getting it loomed and graded, as you said, and then getting the sprinkler put in, and then getting the sod there and putting the sod down.
Come with the resource areas to the back
There's-
and the other side of the street?
So here's a buffer zone way back here to that, at the very, not, it's off property, the wetland's off property, so here's the buffer. And then all the way, so this is well outside the buffer zone. And then we have a wetland across the street. And this is the buffer zone to that.
So all the water's going all the way down the side, the common property between this
Yeah.
development and the neighbor. We didn't even require those to begin with.
They were contemplated, yes.
Were they
In-
part of the
in
original
the
filing?
plan.
I thought they hooked them around the corner just past the low area. There was some regrading to get the, at one point, in fact, there it is, the high point. Some of the water going out back and some of the water coming out front. That's exactly where the work was.
Now, we
So
had,
because of that disturbance.
we had erosion control all through the back and the side and the front. That was called for.
Again, what I'm saying is, it wasn't until they put that swale line on the right-hand side as we're looking at it, did we not have those controls in the beginning.
Oh.
It only came out when they started doing all that extra regrading and back.
Is
So
this
that's
even
why they're there.
Procedurally should be in front of us. I mean, there's not a motion to modify this.
That's a good
There's
point.
a
I was
motion to
gonna-
modify
Yeah.
stuff that's already been done.
No, I
I
know.
was gonna go there.
Right,
It's
right.
not before us properly, but they are here.
But we could just do it exactly the way the plan shows. We'll leave the wattles up, we'll do the swale, and we'll leave it looking like that. I mean, we took 6 trees down on that the neighboring property when we took all our trees down because they were huge pine trees, and now they were naked out there by themselves, with the possibility of them, blowing
Blowing
over.
over.
Hit the house. So we're gonna do some grading on his property on the back area. I'm just looking to make it look good. If the board says, hey, we don't care, we don't want you to do it, I'm okay with that. I don't like that, I don't like that idea, that's why I'm spending the time here to talk
I
to you
would,
about
I
it.
would say if we wanted to be a little bit flexible, there's a swale going down the side
Yeah.
and the swale going in the front. Why don't we let him loom and sod to the swale? And then leave the erosion controls up until he does the swale and that way,
So do everything up to the swale and then do the swale piece last?
after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what-
That's what we were asking for.
What
Yeah.
about his proposal to put the sprinklers in first?
No, do that too. The swale, you're not gonna put sprinklers in the swale.
No, but it sounded like a better solution than grading and sodding first.
So you
Well,
need to
No,
put
no,
the-
no, we ain't doing whatever he wants to do, just up to the swale. And then leave the swale to the proper line.
Problem
of
is, you're
erosion.
not gonna have a clean transition between our yard and the neighboring, John's yard next door. When we took some of the trees down, some of the trees were on the lot line or into his property. So you've got some areas that, actually where that, my pointer, where you, have the swale going to the back and coming to the front. There's an area there, I think if you look in the pictures, maybe the second to last picture. No, the last picture. You can see where the silt fence has been put up again. You can see there's a hump there. That was where one of the big pine trees were. So what you're gonna get is you're gonna get our swale that's gonna come up like that, our swale, and then it's gonna come up like this and then drop it to his land. It's just not gonna look right. Again, if that's, I'm not trying to be, do a hit and run here.
So what's the
And-
final condition?
What's
If the swale goes down and then back up on their property line, I guess what does the final, that's kind of what that grading shows. What's the final condition?
All I have to do is bring it up to my property line, which that shows up to the property line and up to the grade that's there. I just don't think it's gonna look good, and I don't wanna, that's why I'm here asking for the board's help with me taking that, letting us take that down. Again, if we take it down and we put the wattles back up after we loom it, just in case, something happens. I mean, the siltation, the wattles and the silt fence on the front of the street, why it's still there and never got mowed down through this winter is beyond me, but it's still there. But it's about a foot and a half back from the hot top. And if we don't come up to the hot top and pull the dead grass and everything that's on there, now, up against the edge of the road, we don't loom it, and then once we take the wattles and the siltation fence out of there, it's gonna look like that.
So I guess my question is, looking at this last photo, the swale needs to be lower than all of this, right? So is the intent to push all this dirt up the hill or push it into the neighbor's yard and,
See both of the above. Pull some of it back to us.
Yep.
And the rest push into him.
okay.
Don't know how far we're going into his yard. We might go 3 feet, we might go 10 feet. And again, that area right there that you're looking at, that we're talking about is because it's out of the 100-foot buffer anyway.
Yeah.
But
Just bad grading?
Yeah, that grading doesn't match what they're actually trying to
Yeah.
do in the field.
Now we want to remove perimeter erosion control because we have bad
We
grading.
never do that. We never have our erosion controls removed. Especially that's hilly. I mean,
Well, maybe we should stay on track with the original request for the driveway. Let's do away with that,
So they're
or,
gonna
you
come
know,
before us
resolve
for-
that.
so they'll come before us for another modification.
Well, I guess the whole purpose is to protect the wetland areas. This line is not in
The
the
buffer
wetland
zone.
buffer.
It's
So
not in the
maybe
buffer.
if you, keep the erosion controls and have them run perpendicular to the property line, kind of at the 100-foot buffer, just so that water's not, and erosion, soil's not getting down there.
Yeah, you have to come to us with a plan.
Yeah.
That's not just remove it.
I thought, I was, these guys first, the abutter was worried about the water going into his yard.
Right,
That's why he put those erosion controls
and the swale.
and put the swale.
Right.
So, to take the erosion controls away, he's got a lot of grading to do. I'm just looking at pictures and I'm not even out there.
So what I heard is that to minimize the juggling of erosion controls and wattles and whatnot, take them out so he could transitionally rake a grade along the yard to the abutter's yard and feather it into the abutter's yard to make it all blend together nicely. It's not the intent of the plan. It was exactly the opposite when it was first shown to do exactly that. The abutter had the issue with, I don't want the water coming from this new slope getting into my yard. So and I agree with Sean, this is not before us properly. And if it were, I would say no, modification denied. So I think Amy's on point here. This isn't before us. Let's talk about the driveway hammerhead. And then talk about the driveway hammerhead. I'm seeing there are in fact erosion controls that have failed, that they need to be, fluffed up, cleaned, maintained. Order condition says they should be anyway, so it's a violation all by itself, minor as it may be. But I think, their intention is to come in after the fact for making a mistake with the driveway, doing it deliberately, not a mistake at all. And it is after the fact, they pay the penalty for that, and in doing so, I've seen there's a deficiency with their compliance with the permit. So I say, I'm okay with the driveway, fix up your erosion controls in accordance with the approved plans, be in compliance, and if there's anything else you're gonna change, talk to us with a formal submission. In the meantime, build what's approved. Nothing less.
My thought would be to continue this hearing, otherwise, because there is a deficiency that we know on site. Have him come back in front of us with a plan concerning, if he wants to amend his motion, I know, so we don't want to make him pay another fee, we can still do it under this one.
We continue.
Yep, and have him come in front of us with what he's talking about doing that isn't formally in front of us. And then when the plan in front of you can take a better look at it.
And that would be our August 14th meeting.
we won't be back to ask you to request that. We're not gonna do that. We'll just landscape it the way it is now. We want to close on the property. I'd like to get it resolved. It just.
So
if
you
it-
say
if it-
as
if
it is
again,
now.
If it's something you're saying that it's not properly done, then I'll extend it till the next meeting. But I don't know does anyone see a problem with this?
Yes.
What
I
is your
think we
problem
made it
with it, I
clear.
guess is my
So
question.
the problem is, we went through a public hearing, advertised, people here, abutters present. The claim during testimony was a concern for water shedding from this property onto the abutters property, the guy that you have the email from, sworn testimony with an abutters concern and answered, resulting in a redesign and establishment of that swale. To come in and ask to change that now, I'm gonna say, that's an amendment, reopen the hearing, because the abutter should be heard before us, because he's the one who raised the claim that that was needed, and we agreed.
I'm not looking to change the swale.
You are, you just
No,
said
I'm
it.
not.
You're talking about grading across from your property into his property.
Once we come up out of the swale and we hit the property line, I'm looking to go into his yard to make it neat and clean. I'm not looking to eliminate the swale. That's where they think the misunderstanding is.
Well,
I'm still looking to put the swale in,
Yeah, but-
front and back.
But grading in his property, that's on your application.
But that's out of the
So it's out
buffer
of- so
zone.
it's
But
out
it's
of
out of the
jurisdiction.
buffer zone.
It's
With
out
the
of the
exception of the front side.
It's out of the buffer and
Yep.
All right, well, it seems to be the general consensus of Sean and Joe.
So Sean offered a middle of the road, which I thought made sense. If he wishes to do that and change this in any way, we can continue to come back to the next meeting. If he doesn't want to do that, he said, and said as much, make sure we're not wrong in hearing it that way, then we can act on the request that is before us, the hammerhead, and be done with it, and build the rest of the project. We can do that tonight.
Do we,
So I move that, does anybody want to hear a motion?
Yeah.
what's your motion?
I move that we grant the modification request for 242-1880-531 Boston Street as requested.
For the driveway.
Yeah, which is just the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous.
so now the hearing's closed, we're not continuing to talk about at the next meeting.
If you want to change your plan on the swale, what you want to do there, you have to follow
I'm
them
not,
up.
Right, not the swale, but if you want to change anything else, other than what you presented to us initially, you can come back in, and whether you have to file something or not, we're gonna cooperate, but it's gonna be on a separate day than this, with different plans, I think.
I'm not looking to change anything. I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding something here, but why is it that, what am I changing on that plan?
Well,
So
I'm
this
asking-
plan-
I'm
this-
asking to take the silt fence out, so we
This
can-
plan assumes that you're meeting the grades at the property line, and you're saying that you're not.
I am.
If you have to grade onto the neighbor's property, you're
I'm
not
gonna
meeting the
put the
existing
swale in,
grades.
but anything I do on the neighbor's property is pretty much between the neighbor and I, and it's out of the 100-foot buffer. Does anybody have a problem with that? I guess is my
Well, it's-
question.
As
Close the
long as the
hearing, so-
swale is built to plan, I wouldn't see a problem with it.
My only issue is
But-
removing perimeter controls
Yeah.
Right.
before it's stabilized.
Right.
But
So
I almost
yeah, right.
made an amendment to Sean's motion, but it said no, because the implication is in be in compliance with the order of conditions. So, I mean, we can put them on notice that you're not in compliance with maintaining your erosion controls. I mean, you're not. So they need to maintain erosion controls. If somehow we think that, the failed and removal of them and crushing and overtopping in areas isn't a big issue, then, then I guess I'm not sure why we're not here, why we're here to begin with, because if anybody else didn't maintain erosion controls, we'd be all over them. They're not maintained. I mean, the photographs show they're not. They're compromised.
And we do our reports every week, and you get those, so if it was.
No, they, generally speaking, they've been in compliance. I think it's, the driveway work may have smushed some stuff, and now that they've got that grade and some loam or, subsurface dirt on it now, that looks worse than it is. But generally speaking, I mean, there are erosion control monitors out there every week or after rain events, and there really hasn't been an issue. So I just want to let you know that. And Justine has been out there at least once or twice and, told them to fix up, the silt fence here and there, and they've responded. So,
Sounds like the perimeter controls are working, we should leave them in place.
yeah, I mean, especially in the buffer zone, but if they,
I have a question.
if they want to, as long as they do the swale as proposed, and if they want to do stuff outside the buffer with their neighbor, I don't know if we have a lot to say about
Outside the
it.
buffer, I don't think
Other-
we ever.
Is there
Other than-
anything inconsistent with the order of conditions that he's looking to do?
Other than removing erosion controls,
Yep.
I don't think so. So I would say, whatever you do, erosion controls need to stay so that the buffer zone is protected. So if you have to return it up the hill and encompass it or whatever, or have it do a dog leg so that it doesn't come down into the buffer.
The whole idea of doing the sod is to stabilize it, that area, quickly. That's where the swale is down the side, but the biggest swale is down the front. And it's still in there. And if we sod it, you can see on the plan right there where I have the marked in green, there used to be a stone wall there. That stone wall is gone. The erosion control is about probably 10 feet further out into the edge of the road. What we're looking to do is take that erosion control down, landscape it, and sod it. Automatically, it's stabilized, as long as the sod doesn't die and it stays wet.
So along the
Just a
front,
question.
One
so
second,
along the
one
front,
I'm just going,
Yeah, go
your
ahead.
point, you made a point that the work outside the 100,
you're right,
they can do that.
right.
So how much work?
The outside the 100-foot buffer is great. I can deal with that with the neighbor. I appreciate you saying that. What I'm looking for is so we can get the front yard stabilized
Okay, I got you.
quickly.
All right.
And it would require taking the existing erosion control out of the way. If we have to put wattles down, if we loom it and then put wattles down again, we'll do that. Then we take those out. When we do the sod, we're not gonna put the wattles back in because it's gonna kill the sod.
We're just going
Hold
around
on,
in
so you're
circles.
gonna-
You have your modification that you asked for, the driveway thing. As far as the rest of it, that's your, that you do it, that's your project. You do it the way you feel you should do it. And if it's wrong, when you come for your COC, we'll deal with it then.
But we don't wanna come and have that
Well,
problem.
then do it
Well,
according to plan.
there is no problem.
Come for the certificate of
As
compliance.
long
I
as
really
the
think
project
that-
is done according to the plans, there's no issue.
As long as perimeter controls are kept in place.
We spent 5
Right.
minutes
I don't
discussing
think
the
that-
modification
we have no
that's in front
jurisdiction.
of us, and 30 minutes discussing a modification
I know.
that's not in front of us.
I know.
Yeah.
So I think the logistics of getting sod in, I can deal with. And I can require, okay, if you're gonna take the wattles out and get your loam in, then you better get your wattles back in, or new wattles back in. And then, once you get your sod in, and then you do it in sections, and take the wattle out as you put new sod in. So I think that's a reasonable approach,
My opinion,
that I can
If you
manage
keep me
and,
happy for perimeter controls are in place,
right,
then you're meeting your permits,
Yeah, that-
yeah,
whatever.
I think it's fine.
We got no say in that. I mean, they've already got
I
it.
don't think it's the commission, we should condone it. To let people take erosion controls, take them all, put them back in. I mean, it should be that way. We never had it
Well,
before.
sometimes you kinda
Everybody has
have to get things growing.
Usual
Yeah.
business with this commission is the administrator or the site inspector, acting on behalf of the administrator, can authorize the removal of erosion controls if the site is stable. That's been a usual practice with the commission, in my memory.
Yeah,
They
It is.
decide when the erosion controls can come out, and they determine if the site is stable or what modifications need to be made stability-wise. Do I have that right?
yeah,
But that's not what I was hearing for the request, if we were to consider doing it a different way.
So-
I heard completely different. They're in the way, get them out of the way while we grade, while we bring the loom in, while we put the sprinkler system in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's where we started.
That's where this all started, and no, that's not allowed.
Right.
That's contrary to everything you just said. So you are correct in what you said, but that's not what was being presented.
All right,
Okay.
so it's moot point. If he wants to make any changes, he has to refile anyways, or deal with Amy
yeah,
and
okay.
Justine.
We'll deal with Amy, which is what I just said.
Well,
Right.
And Justine.
Right.
She's the,
Okay, all right.
she's
We'll just work on the logistics, making sure that at no time during your loaming, grading, installation of the irrigation system, that the buffer zone is not unprotected. That's all.
Yep.
Fair enough.
And we can work on that.
Okay,
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for the modification.
Yes.
Sorry, I took up all your time.
That's okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good night.
Good night.
Right. Next one, RDA, 95 Hillside Road.
Hold on here. just gonna pull up.
Restabilize 95 Hillside Road.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna let the administrator
I'm just
introduce
trying
the
to pull
project,
up the
and
plan here,
then
hold
we'll ask
on.
you questions.
First, the commission will ask half questions, then we can.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna
Thank
try
you.
to pull up the plan, I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Alrighty. So I'll just give a blurb and then we'll go from there. All right, so this project involves a total driveway rehabilitation proposed to repair years of stormwater damage that has created sinkhole issues over time. The project also aims to improve conditions at stormwater drainage. The work will be 70 feet from the wetland at its closest point. About 440 square feet of the driveway is in the buffer zone, but the majority of the driveway is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Rehabilitation plan includes removing existing concrete pavers that are currently between the driveway and the opening of the garage, removing the existing asphalt and fill and regrade portions of the subsurface where areas are settling, repave the entire driveway up to the garage, and pitch the driveway to the left, slightly away from the garage, so stormwater can collect on the side of the driveway. She is working with FP Riley and Sons, who helped her design a proposed stone infiltration trench on that side of the driveway, which would be 2 by 2 by 25. And it would be clean crushed stone, and it would help, intercept the water and infiltrate in. An asphalt turnaround area will be added to the driveway closer to hillside, but it's going to be outside jurisdiction. It's shown on the plan. Let's see. And so we have field verified the edge of wetland, and that it's behind the house, basically. And the driveway work will be, have the garage between it and the wetland. So we would have maybe a small erosion control area at the corner there. So that's it in a nutshell. We do have the contractor's proposal in your package. We have some photos and a narrative. And Ms. Wise is here. She's the homeowner and applicant, if you have questions for her.
That turnaround area is the only new impervious
Right.
added?
Yep.
Where did the drain, you say drainage is collecting out there, what's it doing?
Over the years, what's happened across the street, the stormwater's coming down the hill. Comes down across Hillside Road into my driveway.
Which way is it coming
From the right.
From that way, okay.
All right, they've, over the past decade and a half, they've regraded, they've changed it. We've lost the stormwater swale across the street. The water literally comes across, it will go into the garage where we have the 2 garage doors. It's starting to get very loose. I can actually push, yeah. So what we'd like to do is, what she had said, take out the pavers, and Riley is going to go from the garage, he's going to slope it back slightly, and it's going to go to the left. The water's going to the left already. We're just going to mitigate it with the crushed stone, and there's, on the bottom, there's actually a hill that goes down. So the water goes down the hill anyway. We're not changing the direction of the water, we're just trying to make it flow a little bit better and disperse better.
Directing it away from your garage.
Yeah, but it's still going that way. It's not going into the garage and then that way.
That sounds like you got a good plan in place, but it sounds like when you call Public Works, what's going on?
I've learned that I need to put things in writing. verbally gone to Public Works a few times.
Yeah.
I need to put something in writing because if you look to the right of the street, that whole area is filled in now. That
That-
used to
that-
be a stormwater swale. And the water's, it's not working
So
the way
it's
it
coming
should
from
be.
the other side of the street to yours?
I believe so, yeah. That's
Holy crap.
obviously not in the past month, but you can see where the road, right after the driveway's starting to break up, and it's breaking up just before my driveway. And if I can see it, you guys probably can't, but in the yellow, just to the right of the purple line, there's actually a traffic cone. I have a sinkhole that's appeared. I mean, I have depressions, but I actually have a sinkhole that's appeared, and we've been told that that's because of the water. So we're trying to fix that.
I'm all set for your project. So
Thank you.
I encourage you to write that letter.
I have no questions, I have no problem with this project.
Okay.
Joe?
It's exactly what I had to do to my driveway when the town road
Oh.
was repaved and all the water was sent down my driveway.
It changes.
It's exactly what I had to do is repave it, get it all to one side, and put a stone drip edge along the edge, and it worked.
Wonderful, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Two different people came up with the same solution, so that's
Okay.
a good. It's too bad we both had to do it on our own. The reality is though, you're gonna have some water that's gonna be at the back left-hand corner by your garage. You're gonna need to find a way to, get some good grass in there and make sure that can absorb the water and let it sheet out.
I was
towards the
actually
back.
thinking of red thyme.
Hmm?
I was thinking of red thyme to do erosion control instead of grass because I figured if I put that in there, it'll be
Just let
great.
the roots establish and hold it.
Exactly,
Perfect.
okay.
Because you are gonna accumulate the water down there, that's where you want it to go.
Well, the water goes back there anyway. We're right behind Royal Crest.
Yep.
So there's water.
You're on the wrong end of Real Crest, right? You're on the downhill side of Real Crest.
Kinda,
Yeah, so I
yeah.
have no questions on the proposal, it's a good one.
Okay, thank you.
So we need a motion.
I move that we
So-
close the hearing
Close the hearing.
and issue a -3 determination with the conditions as listed.
So we would require installation of erosion controls, and do a pre-construction with you and Mr. Riley.
Mike, Joe.
And just to make sure everything's understood, and we can inspect erosion controls, and then a post-construction to verify that the work is complete and compliance and removal of the erosion controls.
We will do that.
I would want, add one other permission, and that is to allow landscaping in the corner of the garage to extend not any closer than 50 feet to the
Okay.
wetland. That'll
Oh,
give
yeah.
them some room on the side of the yard to do, we're only
Understood.
talking 10 feet probably, but.
I appreciate
It
that.
gives you
Thank
some
you.
room just to get it done.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and
I made the motion.
Second from Brad.
Huh?
Brad seconded.
okay, thank you.
As amended, Mr.
As
Chairman.
amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. We're all set.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Next
So we'll
one
get
is,
that permit to you next week.
Perfect. I'll get
Okay.
it to Mike. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks.
next is an RDA 268 Ray Street.
Hello.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, there's no relation. Just the same name.
I can
My
tell.
father-in-law's name is Joe Lynch also, though.
Oh, is
No
that-
way.
That's funny.
See
And he's from North Andover.
the insurance guy and your grandfather's math teacher?
No.
Different Lynches?
My father-in-law.
Your father-in-law's father, was he a math teacher at North Andover High?
Yes.
So I went to college.
We all know Mr. Lynch.
Okay.
And all his children.
One of your relatives was my
All the
roommate in
kids,
college.
Alrighty. So this project involves a deck remodeling and expansion intended to replace an existing deteriorating deck. At its closest point, the new deck stairs will be approximately 95 feet from the wetland as measured by conservation staff on site. All non-reusable deck materials will be dismantled and disposed of in a temporary dumpster located outside the buffer zone. New materials will be stockpiled at the left side of the house outside the buffer. The existing L-shaped deck will be squared off and extended with a 10 by 8 addition with the final deck dimensions being 16 by 22. The existing 4-foot stairs and landing will be relocated and placed parallel to the house at the far edge of the deck. 5 existing footings are proposed to be reused, and any new footings will be dug using a post hole digger. So, plan on the screen shows existing deck, and then in the pink, the extension, or the squaring off, and then the new stairs on the edge. So that tripped it over the 300 square feet, so we couldn't do a small project, unfortunately.
So just look it up, this is
Yep.
so close.
Yeah, I know. So I would recommend closing the hearing and issuing a -3, requiring erosion controls to be installed, and then having a pre-construction with the contractor and homeowner just to ensure project understanding, and then scheduling a post-construction to verify compliance, and then approve removal of erosion controls. Homeowner's here this evening if you have questions for her.
Sounds like more than enough for what you're proposing on that side.
Yeah, I'm all set too.
No questions?
No questions?
None, no questions.
Motion?
So close the hearing and then issue -3 with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Great.
Thank you.
So you're all set. So I'll get that permit to you probably next week.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Hanrad for 242-1889, 492 Sutton Street, requested continue to August 14th.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1896, 0 Great Pond Road, requested continue to August 14th.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And notice of intent, we're gonna jump over one. 242-1894, 1101 Turnpike Street, requested continue to August 14th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1893, 597 Foster Street.
All right. So the commission will recall this project proposes to demolish a portion of the existing house, driveway, deck and stairs, walkway, and retaining wall in order to construct a new garage, addition, associated utilities, and a deck over an existing patio, a rain garden, and buffer zone plantings. A waiver request has been submitted as portions of the proposed project is within the 50, and a very small corner of the pea stone off the new addition is in the 25. All of the new structures are within existing impervious surfaces or structures or retaining walls or stairs, so it's all within existing structure footprint. I did review the wetland line. I moved one flag up gradient by 6 feet. That is reflected on the plan. The commission at the last meeting asked for evaluation of a subsurface infiltration system. They provided a letter explaining stormwater septic field, leaching field setbacks, and then also the fact that, just reminding the commission that the leaching field itself is a mounded system, and the Board of Health provided a waiver for groundwater separation, reducing it by 1 foot. They are proposing 844 square feet of buffer zone enhancement as mitigation for work in these zones. And that entails planting some shrubs and trees and seeding with a wildlife flower mix for a swath along the edge of the wetland as shown. Maureen Harold is here this evening. She's the wetland scientist for the project if you have questions.
Thank you. Brad?
All
gonna let the vegetation expert tell me if this is good enough rehabilitation, so I'm gonna pass for now.
That's your forte, isn't it, Justine? Wetlands.
Vegetation. I would have to take a closer look, honestly, at the species proposed.
So currently, right now, just so the commission knows, it's essentially lawn area. So we're taking 844 square feet of lawn, we're planting, we put in a wildlife seed mix, and we're gonna let it naturalize.
Conditions are improving for the wetland, if it's existing lawn already.
Sorry. For the plants in the rain garden,
Yes.
those are all tolerant of standing water, sitting in water, right? Okay.
Yes.
I think that will probably be full a
Right.
lot of the year, but no other questions?
The waiver request, can you just go over that real quick with me, for me, please?
One moment. I hope I have it. So essentially, the house was built in 1964, just so that the commission is aware. Obviously predates the Wetland Protection Act, predates the local wetland regulations and bylaws. All of the work that we're proposing for the structures is located within existing impervious area and/or the actual structure as part of the house itself. Obviously, any type of work on this property requires a waiver, just given the existing conditions of the property. That's why we're proposing 844 square feet of restoration in terms of planting and a wildlife seed mix for the area, as well as providing the rain guarding to infiltrate for the impervious area with plantings as well.
Thank you, I'm good.
Sean?
I don't have any questions.
Joe?
Having great difficulty understanding the premise of stormwater management in a rain garden, which is typically used for nutrient uptake and for pre-treatment prior to infiltration. And looking at the grades of where the rain garden is compared to the adjacent wetland area, not necessarily where groundwater is, but, you know, where the wetland elevation is, and really thinking, are we even getting 2 feet of separation to groundwater? And does it even function properly as an infiltrating stormwater system? I just don't see enough information for me to answer that question conclusively.
So, I'm sorry to
Go ahead,
interrupt.
no, I mean, you, go ahead. You
So
understand what I'm
it's
saying.
just one of those difficult sites. We have high groundwater, we have an existing home on the site. We can't do rooftop infiltration in terms of a Cultec chamber or dry well because we need 2 feet of separation and would certainly be in the water. So in terms of trying to improve the site, I only see 2 options. We can do an infiltration trench around the structure and, you know, a 1 foot wide, 1 foot deep, or 2 foot wide, 2 foot deep infiltration trench, and/or do a rain garden. Those really are only 2 options given the existing site conditions. And I think my client is open to anything. If the commission does not want a rain garden, if you prefer infiltration trench, we can provide that. But we're trying to work with what we have.
and we're trying to improve it by providing the rain garden and, restore some of the area that's as lawn and let it naturalize and do the wildlife seed mix.
So, let me try to understand it right from the beginning. There's no minimal increase in the impervious area from what's existing now and what's proposed. It's conversion of impervious area.
Correct.
But no increase.
Correct.
So we're really not, the yard is not seeing any more runoff
Correct.
than it always has, or at least it has under its
Right,
existing
because
condition.
prior to even submitting this proposal to the commission, because I understand it's unconventional, maybe the commission would look at it as aggressive. We met with Amy, and Amy was kind enough to say, we'll keep everything within the existing impervious area, and then go to the commission. So that's what's in front of you this evening.
All right, so it's not a stormwater management function. It really and truly is capturing runoff that's already there
Right,
and simply putting a BMP in place to slow it, control it, and get some sort of benefit through nutrient uptake and then infiltration into the soil in drier seasons.
right,
In wet seasons, it's going to sheet off like it's always done.
right,
Is that fair enough?
yes.
All right. I'm hanging up on rain garden and think of it's a different purpose, but if you treat it, if you think of it only as rain garden and having no purpose for stormwater management, it makes sense as a BMP.
Right, and right now, what's around the existing driveway is an infiltration trench. So I think the thought was, let's get rid of some lawn area, let's do some native plantings, let's make it into a rain garden. It may function better, it probably looks better. But again, if the commission prefers an infiltration trench, we're happy to go that route as well.
So the conversation shifts over to the average homeowner. They don't know how to maintain a rain garden. So are we better off with lawn, with water sheeting across, slowly infiltrating and not eroding, as opposed to mulch and remulch and establishing plants and keeping them healthy and selecting the right plants and the right number of them? Is the average homeowner capable of doing that?
Well, I mean, even if there's grass in a rain garden, it still provides some nutrient
Right, just a grass hole.
phosphorus
Yeah.
removal, so, I mean, even if they don't maintain all the plants, it's still gonna serve some function, so.
Sure.
And my client is very meticulous about this property. I mean, when I tell you, it's beautiful from what was
So
originally
it stands a
purchased.
chance.
And
Okay, I'm
Amy
fine.
can.
I'm
I can say
fine.
that it stands a chance. It keeps
Yeah,
it.
I'm fine. It's a big burden. If they're willing to take it on, it's good.
Yeah.
We usually require it written O&M plan for the rain gardens.
I don't want to, not on something small like
Not
this.
that
Yeah.
small.
Okay. I guess I did have a question now that I started thinking about groundwater. In terms of foundation excavation, what kind of foundation are we looking at for these additions?
So this is for a garage that he wants
Okay.
to build. He has not done the architectural plans yet because you folks were the first hurdle.
Amy's asking the dewatering soil stockpile question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna need both.
Right, so we show a soil stockpile on the driveway, but I spoke to Andrew today, and his intent is as he goes, he's taking everything off-site.
Load.
He is a contractor, he does septic system installations, he has a yard that is accessible, that he can take everything off-site as he goes. He does not want to touch his lawn, and that's kind of his intent.
For one, you know how I feel about rain gardens, and private rain gardens even worse. I think I'd be more inclined for an infiltration trench with stone, and than having that it's pretty much maintains itself.
Until it doesn't.
It's just gonna
Yeah.
get,
Until it
it's gonna get
doesn't.
waterlogged and clogged, but.
Yeah. I think in this instance, I'm I'm leaning towards the rain garden.
I am too.
It's above ground, you can see it if it's
Yeah, it's right
holding
there.
a bunch of water.
Yeah.
I'll go whatever.
Yeah.
Like
If the
I said,
homeowner has issues with water not doing what it's supposed to, they're gonna maintain it and make it work. I think the rain garden works.
Okay. Cool.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to move that we approve the waivers as requested for this project.
Good motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay.
So, was that all in favor, or?
It was
Yeah.
it
Was
was
it?
unanimous vote for the waivers.
It was.
Everybody's surprised about it.
No, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't hear everybody.
Amy, the clock's ticking. What are
I
you
know,
doing?
I'm just,
What are
okay.
you doing? You're killing us here.
No, so I did draft up a decision, so we could close tonight and issue tonight.
All right, so is there anything else beyond the waivers that
No.
needed? I move that we close and issue in 21 days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you, have a good night.
Amy, the DPW project on Turnpike Street, I thought you said we were gonna continue that one.
No,
we're not.
we're gonna talk about it. Yep.
Okay. Oh, he's here. 242-1898, DPW, 114.
All right, this bear is probably gonna take forever to download. Let me,
Greg, the Yankee Homecoming Road Race is coming up. Are you in or out?
If I have to, I will.
It's mandatory. You and Bunting.
I'm in.
All right, thank you. Okay, we can go back to business now.
okay. Let me just find the plan set so I can pull it up.
I'm slow, so right out of the gate, make sure I understand. It's part of the work adjacent to the state project, but it's separate from the state project.
Yes.
I'll add it's being coordinated with the state project. But they're separate.
Have they come before you guys yet?
No.
No.
No. That's gonna be a top secret ninth inning surprise.
I don't even think they've issued their
Guaranteed.
final EIR yet, right?
Yeah.
They just have the comments.
Right. Yeah, they're still in that process.
So they're still a ways off yet, but we haven't seen anything official other than the MIPA stuff.
Alrighty, do you want a blurb from me or blurb
I'll
from?
let you speak, what you got here.
Okay, this is high-level stuff, so I'm not gonna get into too much of the weeds, but,
Yeah, stay out of the weeds.
okay. So, project involves a total upgrade of the sewer pump station across from Jasmine Plaza, decommissioning and removing the pump station at the Willows Office Park, installation of an 8-inch PVC gravity line within Route 114 and a new branch connecting from the Willows. Work will take place within the 100-year floodplain, about 13,150 square feet, or 447 cubic feet of work with 465 compensatory flood storage cubic footage. Work is also in the 200-foot riverfront area to Mosquito Brook. It's 1,318 square feet. Work is in the 100-foot buffer zone, the 50-foot no-build zone, and the 25-foot no-disturb zone to BBW. A waiver has been submitted to you guys. Trench work for the gravity line will occur within the paved roadway and the shoulder, as the trench will be 8 to 10 feet wide centered over the pipe. And that will come very close to the BVW alongside of 114. Depths of excavation range from at least 15 to 16 feet for the gravity line and at least 27 feet for the wet well at the Jasmine Pump Station, if I'm reading the elevations correctly. So dewatering is a major component of this project. project narrative does address dewatering and states that the contractor would use a filter bag to discharge to a nearby catch basin that would be fitted with a silt sack. Narrative states that the groundwater would be monitored for turbidity and dewatering method modified if needed to ensure clear discharge. Stormwater redevelopment checklist is provided. Impervious surface will be reduced with decommissioning the Willow Station. And that's really a high-level overview. We've got project consultants here. You guys can introduce yourself and.
Sure. So for the record, Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates. With me tonight is Wade Stanley and Jason Creel, both from Woodland Curran, the project engineers. I think everybody's familiar with both these pump stations. They're down near Stop and Shop. They're outdated, they're aged, they need help, they need work. But before upgrading both of them, there's an opportunity here to eliminate one of them. The Willows pump station is currently a force main that pumps into the gravity sewer that's in 114. Then it goes by gravity down to the Jasmine pump station, and then it gets pumped away. So the new project proposes to eliminate the Willows pump station, install a new gravity line connected to the existing gravity sewer location, but to install an entire new gravity line down to Jasmine, and at the same time install basically an entirely new system where Jasmine is. The problem we have is there's not a lot of room to work with. You've seen it driving by. There's a little island that was built in the wetlands where they plopped this thing. So we're proposing to essentially place the new components directly adjacent to what's there now, and not remove all the components, but instead pump them, crack the bottom, fill them with sand, leave some of the structures in place. We're requesting a waiver because almost the entire existing system is within the no disturb zone. It's entirely in the no build zone. It wasn't clear to me if these would be considered structures under the regs, but we treated them as structures under the regs. We asked for a waiver as well. We are able to make it a little better by removing some of the existing gravel driveway that goes to Jasmine, and that would be loamed and seeded. So there is a slight benefit. Once Willows is gone and all the work is done, there'll be roughly 472 square feet less of impervious, so that's also an improvement. And where Willows is now would be loamed and seeded. There are some landscaping features on the wetland side of Willows very close to the wetland. There's, I think, 3 arborvitaes or 2 arborvitaes and a spruce with railroad tie retaining walls. Those would all have to come out. Typically, we like to leave plants, but there's no way to regrade the area and keep those plants. You'd have a weird little railroad tie island with 3 plants in it. So we're proposing to take that all out, loam and seed it. We are very, very close to the wetland. Some of the work is within the paved surface of the roadway. The bulk of it is within the shoulder of the roadway. So some of those guardrails would come out and eventually be put back in. All the slopes would be loamed and seeded with the standard slope stabilization mix following construction. Other than the 3 landscape trees and probably a few shrubs on the car wash side of the Jasmine pump station would have to come out to install the new components. We got dealt a bit of a curveball during the permitting, well, during the preparation of the notice of intent. DEP let us know that we need to be using the new flood maps that are preliminary. And come to find out, all of a sudden this area is now mapped as BLSF. It was kind of surprising that it wasn't before. There was a gap between the industrial park that Bacon Joy's in and then Mosquito Brook further down. And now they attached a Zone A that connects everything. Not an AE, Zone A, so we were stuck with the graphic depiction. But these guys were able to design this so that we're not filling floodplain. We're shaving the hill down, and there's actually going to be a slight increase in flood storage, very slight. But I was happy that we were able to comply with that because we were going to have to file this as a limited project if we Because we're very tight to the resource areas, the erosion controls are going to be critical here. We're going to have to make sure they're installed correctly. I imagine there'll be a monitor. There'll be a lot of oversight here. Amy and I met out there, was it yesterday? Yesterday, we took a peek at the resource areas. We talked a little bit about dewatering. These guys were made aware that there was going to be some questions about dewatering, so they can elaborate a little bit more on that. The narrative was very vague on what the dewatering was going to entail. And I did find out also, Amy, once we saw how deep the structure was going, I think it's about 27 feet, both of us had the same question. Is this coming in pieces? And the answer is yes. These pieces are going to be sealed, and how can you ensure that they're sealed properly? So I had said to Amy, sometimes tanks, septic tanks, can be vacuum tested. I was wondering if they were doing something like that for these. They're not vacuum testing them, but there is another process to ensure that they're sealed properly. And they can explain that in more detail. But I also want to point out that this reach of Mosquito Brook is not deemed perennial per the current USGS map, but it is deemed perennial under your bylaw. Mosquito Brook in its entirety is a river. So we are working in riverfront area also. But most of this is degraded and somewhat exempt from most of the performance standards in that section of regs. But I'd be happy to talk about anything else you have questions about with respect to the resource areas, but I can't get into the details of any of this because I'm not an engineer. But that's why they're here.
Right. Are we abandoning in place because of permitting issues or cost? The pump station.
The existing pump station at Jasmine is being abandoned in place because it's going to remain in operation while the new station is being constructed, because there's no room for any kind of a bypass system or pumping without effectively either being further into the resource area or in the road. So what you see on the screen right now will actually be completed with keeping those other two sections online and maintained. Once that's done, those two, I believe it's a little deceiving on that drawing because it's only showing you the opening to the pump station, which is about 2.5 feet. Down below, it's about 8 feet. And it's a steel can. So there's no real good way to get that out adjacent to the new construction once it's done, which is why we came back and said we can bring it down, whether it's 4 feet, 6 feet, take the tops off, break, backfill, and leave in place. Okay. That's the rationale.
Okay.
And the bottoms would be perforated. They're not going to hold water for years to come.
Okay. I think I'm all set. We like sewer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any additional questions.
No questions.
We're still high altitude. We're not diving into this. We're going to continue this. aren't we?
Yeah, we
All right.
can't, we don't even, I don't even, I'm not sure we.
Yeah, we got a file number, no
we
comments.
did. Yeah, well, I don't
Pretty
have a
quick.
draft, I do not have a draft decision ready tonight, so.
So my question is, from my understanding, it's gonna be a pretty big, it's gonna be a pretty deep dig,
Yes, sir.
okay? And you know where the water table is there. So there is gonna be some serious water. I just was curious if you had any thoughts about how you're gonna control this. What are you gonna do, dig and backfill as you go? And taking the material, where you gonna put all the material and it'll be trucked out, trucked back in?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the trench is going to be closed up, which is typically what the requirement is if you meet the exemption, if you're within the paved surface. We're not within the paved surface, but the idea is to close the trench at the end of each day, work in sections.
But as you dig, where are you gonna put the stuff in the meantime?
Side cast,
Materials?
you said?
Yeah, there's no place to put it.
Are you talking for the pump station or for
No,
the
when you're
sewer?
digging for the,
Everywhere, I
For the
guess.
trench work.
for the trench work.
So for the trench work, lanes will be closed. I can't speak for the contractor. My assumption is that they will keep it in trucks on the side of the road, or they will pull it to their staging area. And they'll have to bring it back at the end of the day.
Oh, we haven't done it. We're not, staging area along there is non-existing.
There's not there's no room to stage anything within the right of way.
So that'll
So
be.
no
that-
side cast while the trench is being dug. I thought I read that, but
It
in
would,
the-
if
in the
it,
narrative.
it would be put in trucks if they were gonna do it and store it within the right of way.
It's gonna, you know, like you said, once you get into the water table, you're gonna be digging mud.
Yeah.
So where it's gonna be transferred is gonna be very important.
Of course.
Or how? How?
And how.
Tight tailgates and everything else, there's a whole bunch. Sorry, keep going.
No. So I mean,
I'll try
that's, and the watering, how that, I'd be interested to see how that's gonna be done. And how much far ahead do you dig? Ahead of the pipe, you do 20 feet, put a pipe in and keep, then start digging again?
Pretty much.
Yeah, a little over. So this is, this will be sanitary sewer pipe. Typically, they're gonna get that 13 or 14-foot sections. So you're looking at 20 feet, at 10 to 12 feet deep, which is most of this run. They're gonna be working, I would assume, in one trench box and have a little bit of clearance on either side.
Okay. That's enough, that's for now, enough for now. Sean?
When do you anticipate starting and how long will it take?
We have to start.
So this is an ARPA-funded project, so the money needs to be encumbered by the end of the year. So we'll be bid by the end of the year and a contract signed. The road work, the goal is to start the road work in '25. The pump stations are expected to take a little bit longer due to lead time on most of the equipment. But effectively, we're looking at start in early '25, wrap it up
Late.
probably October, probably Q3, Q4 '26. And then
ARPA fund.
not for spoilers, but, and then our
ARPA
friends at
funds.
DOT are gonna come in.
ARPA funds expired June 30th, 26th. So you're gonna be done before that?
Yes.
You're gonna be closed out.
Here.
Yes.
But you were saying not to spoil what?
I was gonna say, not to spoil our Mass DOT Friends project, but their goal is, they're hoping very much that we're in and out, so that they can come in and start their utility work probably in late '25.
Early 26 was their goal.
And how long is the road work gonna be?
The road work is, what's the distance on it again?
It's way bigger than our project.
Oh, no.
We're about
Oh, I'm sorry.
1,200 linear feet. for
Oh.
our-
You mean our road work or
Yes.
theirs? Okay, ours is,
About 1,200 linear feet.
yeah, so,
We estimate that it's 8 months.
How many months? Did you say 8 months? Is that what you said?
apologize, give me 2 seconds, so I can grab the schedule.
I didn't get the schedule.
So,
And will the same contractor doing the road work, will do the pump stations too?
Could be.
yeah, I think we're anticipating about 3 months in the roadway. And they may end up demobilizing off the roadway for a period of time, depending on how the pump stations are working. And yeah, yes,
Same.
it'll be one
Will be one
contract, one
contractor.
contractor.
Thanks, I don't have anything else at this point.
Without diving into the lengthy pipe work and the various impacts, I mean, clearly, the greatest degree of difficulty is dewatering and soil control through the whole project.
I know.
The trench work, a little less complicated than the pump station itself. Pump station's hugely complicated. Knowing where water table is, even the precast structures, I mean, I'm not seeing, what are you guys thinking about buoyancy of that wet well at 27 feet? You know, maybe 15, 20 feet below groundwater. There's a buoyancy factor that you're gonna concern yourself with. And how do you tend to hold it down?
Big old bottom slab. Big old bottom slab.
Yeah, it's an extended base bottom slab.
So even the precast is gonna be extended base,
So
which
it's
makes that excavation
larger.
bigger
Correct.
to get it down first,
Correct.
and then backfill maybe in as you come up.
Yes. Yeah, I think that we can show those calcs if you want them. It's effectively, it'll ultimately be how the contractor provides their precast submittal. whether it's a monolithic or, I believe it's shown there with the extended base on either side. It's a, 10-foot diameter?
It's 10-foot diameter.
A 10-foot diameter structure, so more than likely, that extended base will be installed in the field. It'll be similar to the raised pond pump station project a few years ago.
So my point is this, that is, it's deep, 27 feet at least, probably deeper to get the good sound water and get some stone under it. It's oversized, over its diameter just to get it in, and now you start bringing it up in pieces. So you almost have to control an awful lot of soil and an awful lot of water for a very extended period of time. We're not talking about like turning the
Yeah.
pumps off, going home at the end of the
Right.
day. I mean, I heard dirt bags, I heard catch basins, I'm hearing rain for rent, and then some.
So to be clear, that's,
On the pipe section?
on the pipe section, you have that. In here, I would very much anticipate, and it's specified to be a cutoff wall supportive excavation system. And ultimately, how they choose to do the dewatering, if they're gonna do it with sumps or a well point system, that's to be determined.
And this is where, so I'm in the business. This is where the way we customarily do business and the way municipalities do their construction work and do their bidding. The reality is we need to know to issue a permit, what is it you're gonna do? So you don't usually get means and methods until you have a contractor on board.
Correct.
So we may be having what seems to be a reasonable order of conditions that says during pre-con construction and pre-construction submittal is to submit a detailed dewatering plan to which we're gonna go and add $100,000 change order to your project through back and forth. That's the reality of this. But you don't know means and methods until you get somebody aboard.
Can I ask why we can't dictate that as the commission? Why can't we say the contractor has to use frac tanks, or?
We're gonna say it to the permit applicant, who's gonna say it to the consultant, the consultant's insurance agent's gonna say, we don't dictate means and methods for construction.
I would add to that, though, that if there is something if you place that as a condition in the order of conditions, the order of conditions will be part of the bid set, of which the bid set is what they're bidding on. So if you do add something, to that dewatering, it's gonna go out to all of those contractors, they're going to then bid on that. So yes, you may raise the project price, but it wouldn't be.
Wouldn't be a
after the
change
fact.
order.
It wouldn't be after the fact.
Okay, so that's the caution I just make, because I think that's where this project really gets, no pun intended, really gets muddied with what the heck we're looking at, because that's very, very complicated. And, where that very large volume of material is stored, and it is gonna be loose, slurry more than dirt. It's gonna be very important for someone through the process for us to say enough in an order of conditions to get it out there as a requirement. And I don't think we have that kind of discussion yet. I think we're getting there, but we need to work on that.
Yeah, I would add too that I know that Greg did mention dewatering is one of the questions. I did realize that there's additional detail we'll put on the plans. It would be consistent with what we've done at some of the previous stations, which is the dirt bag inside a stilling well. And that stilling well being whether it be permanent with core logs, fabric and stone, with the bag set inside of it, so that you're not relying just on that bag to control any types of sediment. We can certainly add that. Again, we've done that on on the last, I believe, 2 projects, the last 2 pump station projects, including up next to the lake. The bigger concern I have, I certainly don't have any issue adding that to the plans so that they can see that that's a minimum requirement. They will submit their own dewatering plan, and I think I just want to make sure we can give them some flexibility. Obviously, depending on the rate of dewatering, they might need to use something like a frac tank, and I certainly don't want them to think that they're only going to get away with a dirt bag there. So,
I mean, I suspect we're gonna be pretty vague and give performance standards,
Sure.
volumes of water discharged at a point source is gonna be dictated, and I think, the clarity and turbidity of 40 NTUs or less is gonna be pretty standard. And whatever it is they propose needs to meet that, than anything else that we think of. That's my, right from the hip, standards I think we need to maintain. I'm thinking about technique to get down that deep. I mean, I see it's a 10-foot diameter, inside diameter wet well?
Yes.
Correct.
Inside diameter. So even with the extended base to hold it down for uplift, is this a caisson job? Do they have the ability to leave a steel sheathing as they drill it and caisson down, drop everything in, and once everything's built vertically, pull the caisson?
So I would anticipate it'd be sheet pile, so segmental sheet piles that they would do. My guess is they're probably gonna do a box. What did we give them enough room for, I think about a
Couple
20 by
feet
20.
each side,
We gave that, we're anticipating it's gonna be 15 by 15, 20 by 20, something in that size. They'll go in, they're gonna base that on their determination of soil pressures and what they're designing their dewatering system to pull down to. Again, we're expecting a cutoff wall type system. So they may end up making it a little bigger and using larger steel to support the cofferdam, or they may do less, make it a little smaller, and try to do a little more dewatering to bring the water level down. I'd be very concerned if I saw that, but
But it's that sort of thought process that we need where it
Understood.
coordinates, safety, the ability to dig it, how much the soil needs to come out and the way it comes out, and how much water we're dealing with. Those are the types of things we need to define better, to understand it better. And for high altitude, I think I'm done.
Okay. And there's, just so you guys understand that this commission requires performance bond, cash performance bonds from the contractor, separately from what the town requires. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but just so you're aware that that's how it goes here.
Do you have language for that, or is that something that would be?
It's a
It'll be in
boilerplate.
It'll be in the order of conditions.
It'll be in the order, it's a boilerplate, and it's just a matter of what that price tag looks like.
Okay.
But just so you're aware.
Yeah, we just want to make sure we get that in our specs. like
Oh,
we
yeah,
said.
absolutely,
A
yep.
lot of contractors on public projects, they think of the surety bond, which you're gonna typically put as part of your bid package, and they think of it as maybe the same as and they're not, they're two separate entities.
Okay.
And they're not sureties, they're a check made
No, this
payable
is-
to the
this is
town
ca-
of North
this is a
Andover, that we
cash
put
bond.
in, yeah, it's a cash bond,
Performance bond.
so, just so you're aware.
Would you like a motion?
I don't know if there's anyone from the public?
We do have letters.
Oh, you can sit up to the microphone.
With the Willows Racket Fitness Center? Just part of-
Yeah, yeah.
Use the engine.
Just real quickly, and I didn't know if anybody knew the history on this, but somewhere around pre-94, they had a problem with the pumping station stuff that was there.
We
And-
need your name and.
Oh,
name and-
I'm sorry, Phil Petchek, Willows Racket Fitness Center, 815 Turnpike
Okay,
Street.
all right.
And they had a problem with the pumping station, and everything from that whole area ended up with 2.5 feet of sewage in our building, where it seemed to be the low point in it.
You're referring to the west side interceptor.
The Willows Racket and Fitness Center itself,
Yeah.
which is behind the Willows Office Park.
Is that feeds into west side, am I right?
It's all part of the west side interceptor eventually, but this is just local to the
Just a
pumped
local,
area.
okay.
Right, and
Gotcha.
it feeds, we've got a line that goes out. Originally, we had septic many, many years ago, pre me owning it. The town had the previous owner tie in. It comes out somewhere in a manhole cover behind the Willows Office Park, and I don't know where it goes from there, but it makes it out to that pumping station. They had a problem with it at one point. It came in. We had 2.5 feet in there. We're the low point in there, at least according to what we were told. I just wanted to make sure that they had stuff in place so we're not getting all this sewage that when they cleaned up that area, my understanding was it just ended up out in everywhere. I mean, I remember when they had a problem with that pumping station out by the street, and there was toilet paper and all sorts of other stuff floating out in the area right along the street there. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't coming back to us, and what do we do with it, kind of thing. So that was really my concern on all of that. So I don't know if you guys, at least from what I looked at, it looked like you guys were talking, you only were looking at the Willows Office Park, and I didn't know if we tied into that.
I believe, I don't know the exact, how the kind of sewer system goes behind this, but I believe you are tied into the Willows pump station. They're either tied into the flagship.
So.
We're definitely tied into the
Yeah,
Willows
you're-
pump
you're-
station.
So you're connected to, if it's okay, I can address directly. Yes, the racket club and the area, even going back further on Willows, comes to what's known as the Willows pump station, which is this little fenced area out in front of the condo complex. That's actually part of the reason why this is being addressed, is that station is failing and has failed a number of times. I will, just for the sake of the commission, I'll just clarify one thing Greg said. We're putting in new gravity sewer between this station, Willow Station, and the Jasmine Station. There is actually an existing gravity sewer on 114, on Turnpike Street, from the condo complex across the street, past the car wash, on the northbound side of the road. What we're doing is actually, and you can see it on this drawing, what the town has done over the years is flow from across the road used to come to this station. They cut that off with what you see in some of the darker line here, and the flows from the condo complex go right onto 114 and down to the Jasmine pump station. The Willows pump station, when it failed, presumably at this time that it failed here, couldn't go anywhere else. What they've done is they opened it up so that if the Willows station is not pumping what it needs to, it actually can rise up and it will actually go backwards across the street and it flows by gravity. So the sewer that's in the road now does function as a backup to the Willows station. The reason why it's being replaced is it's not low enough to work like that. We don't want to have, there's not enough freeboard there for us to be comfortable that you can get all that flow across the road. So the new station, what you see here in the dark lines, is actually all going back in the same location as the existing sewer. It's just, what, a foot and a half deeper?
Yeah.
It's literally a foot and a half deeper. It's the same size pipe. And that will actually
Okay, so
switch so that your area now will drain all the way down to the entrance to the plaza, to that
Okay.
pump station. And you will not be connected to this pump station.
Okay, so the bottom line is, all of this is gonna be lower than where we are, is ultimately the big concern on this, right? We got a little tank that, because originally we had septic, and once it filled the little teeny tank, we had the entire office park coming into us.
That, unless there's an act of God, that's not gonna happen.
Okay. Therein lies that was my concern on it, because I didn't want to see it come up and be every place our way. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, are we requesting additional information? Are we giving them marching orders for something to come back
Well,
with?
I think we need a lot more information on, soils handling and dewatering and what they think to be, the volumes involved and where is it gonna go, and it's gonna, just enough for us to be able to write an order of conditions that gives us the protection we need, gives the contractor the guidance of what the expectation is that we have, so they can give them a realistic price. I don't think, we're not there tonight for Don Shore, and I think we're looking at continuance for that purpose.
Okay, just want to make sure they know what they need to work on.
And things like resource areas and lines and the work that you're all squared away with
Yeah,
everything that
I
Greg
mean-
said.
Yeah, I mean,
Where the waivers are needed, it's the only place they're needed, we're at.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, my biggest concern is dewatering for this project.
Would you have any, like a calculation of what the water could be?
In terms of volume, not current.
So it's gonna be a guesstimate. pretty much.
It kind of is with all hydrologic.
Yeah, until
Would
the-
you be able to get any information from DOT? They've done a series of borings along that side. Do you think you could
And
get
we
any
have to.
data?
We have those borings.
You do.
We have their borings along with our geotechnical.
You do, all right.
20 by 50.
Is that gonna give you a feel for groundwater level and,
You dug a hole at the beach,
so,
right,
I
Lou?
don't know.
Tunnels leaking.
Dug a hole at the beach?
I wanna say there was a test pit done at Jasmine,
There's a boring.
a boring, okay, so I
And a
don't,
boring done at Willows.
okay, so I don't know if
The 10-foot trench.
that collection of data could inform you at all.
We can come up with,
Yeah, I mean, in general, no. You know, ultimately, you know, what I certainly can share immediately is the requirements for the dewatering system. That would be, and the plan, plan requirements from the contractor. Until we know, to our earlier conversation, until we know what that system's gonna entail.
Yep.
And how they're designing their supportive excavation, they may be doing something to provide less water
Yeah.
or more water. I think that's, to know, I wish I could tell you exactly how much water was gonna come out of there, because I'd be making a lot of money right now.
It's as much as a tunneling project with regards to the wet well as it is a deep excavation. I mean, the reality is you've got to get a cutoff wall down deep enough that you can cut off the water from working its way around it. Get that all down tight, get all your soils up, get your stone base down and set that first piece in. If that's the case, if you get that sheathing, caisson, whatever you're using as a cutoff, get it deep enough, and maybe get some well points around the outside to relieve some of the hydrostatic pressure, you're not gonna have a whole hell of a lot of water in the hole if they do it carefully, if they treat it as a tunnel.
And that's what I'm anticipating. And actually, I can say that from the geotechnical report we had and the borings that we've done at the site, at that wet well location, we're likely going to end up towing those sheets into rock. Because there's rock about 3 feet above the bottom of that wet well. So they'll be in there for a little while. But again, that's part of what I'm not sure how they're going to approach it, because if they simply design it to be a little bit bigger, and let the steel seal and seal the water out, and those sheet piles and whales support that load with the water at effectively near the ground surface, they may choose to go that route and have less dewatering. They could choose to do a well point system, similar to what you suggested. The only thing I can say is that I had the same concerns when we did the station at the lake, Gray's Pond, and I was stunned when we put in the sheet piles and the support, and they started to look at groundwater, and despite being between a pond and a lake, we had 0 groundwater.
That section wasn't that deep, as compared to this,
It
was it?
was 24 feet deep.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't think it was that deep, okay.
And I can tell you that because it's got a 20-foot straight ladder that I had to go down, and I don't do well on 20-foot straight ladders.
So like I said,
Could
the
you-
other thing is, I'll be interested in where the dirt's gonna go.
Yeah, could you also, I know you list what soils are in the vicinity, can you kind of maybe expound upon how they behave if they become suspended? Do they become, coffee for months, or, I mean, what's, you know what I mean, like, does it settle out? Like, just explain a little bit more as to, what we're gonna be looking at for how those soils are gonna behave.
What was your projected timetable? What
But
was
those
your
are all the
start?
things that do concern us, but I think if we stick with, you're allowed to discharge through dewatering X number of gallons per minute,
25.
and you need to control that,
Spring of 25.
and that the discharge turbidity be not greater than 40 NTUs. And you need to do everything in your process to make sure that end result happens. Contractor's burden to do that, and they can tell us how. And if it's rain for red in series, get the turbidity out, and at the end, they can control the volume discharge to some sort of diffuser through a couple of catch basins that are protected to move the water through the regular drainage system. That's what they need to be thinking about telling us, but really, we're gonna say X number of gallons per minute maximum, and I think you need to help us with that, because I don't know what that is yet, and not more than 40, I keep saying 40 NTUs, I think it's still the standard for turbidity,
I
right?
think so,
Yeah, for suspended solids, yeah.
That's ringing a bell.
In your contract, it has to meet those. If they're into this type of business, they know what that means and how to do it.
Yeah, and that's where if you can, even if you tell us the 40 NTUs, or again, any other conditions you have, those will go into
Bid package.
the other conditions, that will go into the bid package, and that's what they'll be held to throughout.
So we're gonna continue this?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
To the 14th of
What are we
August.
looking at?
To August 14th, that's our next meeting.
August 14th, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
So, next one is, 242, no, DP number 865 Johnson Street.
Okay. This project involves demolition of an existing home at 865 Johnson Street, built in the early 1960s and recently abandoned. The construction of two single-family homes at 865 Johnson and the neighboring undeveloped lot at 877 Johnson. There was a wetland resource directly across Johnson Street, and the 100-foot buffer zone extends into the front of both properties in question. Staff walked the wetland line with Maureen Harold of Norris Environmental last week and agreed with the wetland delineation depicting the flags, wetland flag 1 through 12. No house structures or septic systems are proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone to this resource area. The elements proposed between the 50 and the 100 buffer zone include a portion of the proposed driveways, underground utilities, site grading, and some tree removal and vegetation removal. Erosion controls in the form of 12-inch mulch stocks are proposed on the down gradient limit of work along Johnson. Stone construction entrance and stockpile areas are shown on the proposed plan. There is a wetland system at the very rear of these properties that was part of an ANRAD in 2015. Justine looked at that. They weren't flagged in the field, but she did inspect that and didn't believe that it changed at all. And work is outside of the buffer to that wetland. It's just outside, but so that's the high level. Bill Dufresne, project engineer, and I think the applicant.
Yes.
Applicant is here with us this evening. If you have questions.
Right?
I think I'm all set.
So I had just some questions, like how are we gonna do roof runoff mitigation, and then maybe just slowing the water down off the driveways that it's gonna come flying down onto Johnson Street. So, just my thoughts. It's the light
The
colored.
demo building is in Lot 2B, and it's essentially under the proposed building, it's twisted a little bit.
Yeah, it's like
It almost
right
protrudes into the
here.
leach field. There you go, right there.
And so that property's gonna get a split driveway, one that spills to Mill and the other part goes to Johnson.
That driveway location, by the way, exists today.
That split?
Yeah.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we subdividing this?
So this was subdivided in 2017. It went before the planning board as a 4-lot subdivision, A&R subdivision. The 2 lots that were already built on came before the commission and were built under an order of conditions for those 2 lots specific. Carol Reska lived in the house at that time, and they chose not to develop the property directly adjacent to them. She has since moved into assisted living, and they're now moving forward with the sale of the 2 additional lots.
So we're looking for a little bit more roof infiltration? Is that,
I
mean, we,
mean, the commission usually kind of looks for that, generally
the most
speaking.
recent guidance is we wanted it to coming down into splash pads and go over grass instead of direct roof infiltration.
Whatever you want, whatever you guys want. It's just, we're gonna have
Yeah.
some,
So,
we're gonna have some grading that's gonna build things up a little bit, and,
Got a sequential question to help have this discussion move forward. 2017 subdivided, is that what I heard?
I think it was 2017.
2017, so 7 years ago. It was subdivided to create 4
Yes.
residential lots.
right,
1 existing and 3 additional.
3 additional.
right.
2 got built.
2 got built
and
on
they
Mill
held these.
Street.
So stormwater standards kick in of more than 2 residential lots.
4 more.
So is this subject,
It's 4.
4, is this subject to the 4, just because they broke it up into 2 separate pieces?
Well, they've gone through the planning board land disturbance permit process, and so that land disturbance permit.
So
is
to help
still-
the question of
it
what do you do
still
with
holds.
roof runoff and other runoff, if it's 4 lot subdivision, are they subject to the stormwater standards and therefore have to do an analysis and tell us what they're gonna do to mitigate it? But because they broke it up over a 7-year period, does that go away, even though it's a 4-lot residential subdivision?
Segmentation. Segmentation.
I mean, I know.
Segmentation's frowned upon.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't segmentation and get limited projects either.
Yeah.
This was done under an A&R subdivision in 2018. The other 2 lots have frontage on Mill Street, on Mill Road.
What I'm saying is a
Yep.
tract of land that became
4 lot.
4-lot residential subdivision would not really be subject to stormwater standards, full-blown analysis with construction and designs and
Right.
permitting. The fact that they broke it up piecemeal, is segmentation. I believe these 2 lots are subject to stormwater standards and need to be analyzed.
I think it's determined by, when you filed your A&R, it was 4 lots filed? 3 lots filed?
3 lots, it was an existing.
3
lot.
additional,
3 additional.
3 additional, so it's a 4 lot.
So the A&R was not for 4 lots?
It was for 3 additional lots.
So 1 lot turned into 4.
1 lot turned into 4 lots.
If they came in and
With an
did
existing
4
home.
houses simultaneously, it would be stormwater standards.
So that would, I think that, my opinion only, I think that would trigger the stormwater.
It does.
That's what Joe's saying.
Okay.
So the question of what do we do with roof runoff and what do we do with driveways and what kind, I think it's more than what do we do? I think it's, so tell us.
Tell us
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Analyze it, and show us.
I think so too.
Look at this phase though, because I mean, they got 2 other lots, are they gonna have to?
Well, the 2 other lots on Mill have been built, and I know
They
there's.
haven't been built,
Yeah,
okay.
and
Oh,
there's
they're built.
some
Okay.
infiltrate,
They are
there's
built.
Yeah.
stormwater
They are.
BMPs on those lots.
Okay, I just don't wanna
There was a
burden these 2
bioretention
lots.
cell on one of them, and,
Okay.
Yeah, we will be required to go through the planning board for that earth disturbance permit, as they did, which is when we thought stormwater was gonna be addressed.
So what I'm saying is the application here is absent any stormwater management analysis and what is you're proposing to do. Therefore, the discussion we're having about roof runoff is moot
Right, I agree.
at this point.
I agree.
so
My question
you
is,
have, I just need clarification with the planning board. So there's an existing land disturbance permit?
So
Or
what
that
happened was,
everybody
the owners sold 2 of the 4 lots.
Yeah,
to a developer who
Right.
went through and pursued those 2 permits.
Right.
We did not do those. They elected to market the lots for sale, 2 of them. And this wasn't an intentional act to circumvent any of these regulations. She was living in the home, she didn't want to build on all the lots. But what happened was, the developer then went forward and got those 2
Right,
permits. So
that's
I don't know
illegal.
what was done exactly, you probably know
Yeah,
better than I
yeah.
do. Because they sold them with conservation approval, order of conditions, Board of Health approval, and planning board A&R. They were sold that way.
My question, there's sewer on Johnson Street, how come we're not putting sewer in?
There's not sewer in front of this property.
I didn't think
So that-
I didn't think it
there
went
was
this
no
far
sewer?
down.
No, there's no sewer. Sewer stops up near Mark Road or up
By
that.
Carl's Head is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The old house.
Because I know I just did a septic upgrade for 531, and it was 2 house lots away from the sewer.
Yeah, I thought Johnson Street had sewer all the way to 114. Okay.
So to get back to the stormwater, it sounds like there has to be a stormwater analysis.
Yeah, they have to propose, they have to find out what's there, and they need to
Yeah.
understand what post condition is gonna be, and they need to control it,
I
manage it.
think so.
We're being continued for lack of a file number tonight anyway. We haven't got our file number yet. So
You
this.
can continue it for any reason you want.
Real quick, just so he has some direction though, I want to talk about this. Does he have to show stormwater for all 4 sites, or can he just take 3 and
No,
post to these
we're
2?
just
If-
talking these two.
If the other 2 lots already did exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah.
it met stormwater standards,
They
I would
just
say
gotta
no.
do these 2.
Those have, but this is still part of a 4-lot subdivision.
Right.
Therefore, it's subject to it, they just need to do the same level of effort.
They did do it, Joe, not through the order of conditions, through a planning board permit.
We didn't catch it, I guess.
But we understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what to do.
I do. I do.
It's not your first rodeo.
The fact that you
Not
got-
my first rodeo.
The fact that you got septic systems to work means there are things you can do to control the groundwater.
It's decent
The
soil. It
growth-
was
the
decent
runoff.
soil there.
So one of the things, just when you're doing your calculations of the site, you probably already know this, but Amy had mentioned the runoff onto Johnson Street, coming off the site. So that will be something, I assume that'll be included in your analysis.
We can do that. I went specifically out to look at the site yesterday, because she made a comment about putting erosion control across the street.
Yeah.
And I went to see if there was actually a crown in the road and what water did, and I think it does shed across the street and by spot elevation. Looks like it goes across the street where there's an asphalt berm and a sidewalk. So it would have to climb over a berm and a sidewalk, but water does shed to the opposite side of the street.
Yeah, so if you can slow
So
it
we
down.
need to address that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I understood her concern when I went out and took a look at it.
Okay, so we need to continue.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Opposed? Abstained. Thank
So
you.
continue
Thanks.
to,
Thank you.
August 14th,
August 14th.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is the enforcement order, 1689 Salem Street.
All right, so Commission will recall issuing an enforcement order for removal of a shed within the 25-foot no disturb zone and a fence that ran from the rear of the house, enclosing the entire backyard and enclosing part of the wetland itself, so it was in the wetland. Commission gave a deadline of June 27th for those structures to be removed. The homeowner removed them by May 20th. I went out there, took pictures, and he did a great job. The commission did say if he wanted to relocate the fence outside the 25, he could do that, so I pinned out the 25 for him. And he does have a dog, so he'll probably do that, but he knows where the 25 is. And I think you are free to vote to lift the enforcement order as the violation is resolved.
It's good for me, I'm all set.
All set?
Motion?
Motion to lift.
Second.
Second, motion to lift.
Motion to lift.
I think I know what that means.
Sure.
We're just making stuff up now, aren't we?
Swagging it.
All right, we have
The
a
joint
motion.
plan of-
The engineers like to use a swag, and they get away with it, so I can do it too.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Next one is 85 Colonial Ave.
Alrighty, so Commission will recall, this is an enforcement situation that the previous homeowners had constructed non-compliant structures in the 50. The new owner, it didn't get resolved with the old owners. The new owner was left dealing with this. He has removed the shell that surrounded all of these the decks, and then took out, the shell that enclosed them. Was looking at the last meeting with his attorney if the commission would be willing to consider mitigation to allow for the decks and the concrete pad to stay. Commission was amenable to that. Homeowner engaged Greg Hockmith to prepare the plan, and I know the homeowner had a landscape consultant to assist on species and placement and things like that. So we do have a buffer zone enhancement plan. It calls for a 325 square foot area of mitigation, which is about a 3-to-1 ratio enhancement to incursion. We have a list of species that they're proposing. They're going to remove the lawn in this area and do a seed mix with the plantings. They are proposing 2-year monitoring with our usual 75% overall survivorship, and reporting by the wetland consultant. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. Greg Hockmith and the homeowner, Evan Jones, are here this evening if you have questions.
Brad?
Looks like you gave us exactly what we asked for. Also.
I'm all set.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Questions? Joe?
Nope, it's exactly what we asked for.
All right, so we need a motion.
So I'd recommend revising or amending the enforcement order to incorporate the plan in its totality in terms of all its milestones, and establish a deadline for the planting and monumenting. And I don't know if September 30th would make sense of this year or spring of next year, I don't know. But I think we should have a deadline. So I don't know what's realistic for you guys.
I'd like to target the fall growing season, if that's
Yeah, I was
okay
gonna
with
say
the
the
commission.
things you're picking, you wanna plant in, after September, really. So I'd say before Thanksgiving, there's something be planted, and then, do you wanna do any monitoring after that?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it calls for
Yeah,
it.
so I'd say middle of November, that it'd be completed. Gives you that window of optimum planting season.
We also proposed 2 posts,
Yes.
placards, just to
Yep.
keep the planting area where
Yep.
it's supposed to be.
More questions?
I have no more questions, Mr. Chairman.
How about a motion?
So I would also just say that I'd want a pre-planting meeting with you and Greg.
Yeah, one of the,
Before
one of our bullet points to recommend staking out by survey. So maybe after
Survey,
it's staked out, the
stakeout
erosion
survey.
controls are in, we could have a pre-construction meeting.
Yep, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we issue an amended enforcement order to incorporate all the amendments that have been discussed
Second.
up to this point.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Not lifted.
Huh?
Not yet. No, we gotta make sure you do it now.
Yeah, we'll lift it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Sorry I had to wait for that
Okay.
5-minute blurb. But you made it
Push, we
easy,
got
Greg,
push.
so. Yes, me too. Thank you.
All right, you want to do the decision first? You want to do the dues and the officer elections?
Let's do the officers and dues, and then we do the decision. Is that all right? So
Are we
officers.
gonna stick to tradition and railroad, Jack Maven?
What's that?
I'm gonna move that Lou Napoli be reinstalled as chairman for another term.
I second that.
And I'll move that Al Manzi be reinstalled as vice chair for another term.
And I second that.
Double motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Been here for a long time.
Tell everybody.
Don't tell them.
Hey, I've said I would resign several times to the town manager. She says, don't go anywhere.
I won't let him resign.
There you go.
It's not happening, Lou stays.
And I gotta do what he says, because he's got bitches.
It's blackmail, goes a long way.
What? It's an
and
offer you can't refuse.
All right, and now we MACC
CC
dues.
dues are $9.85. That includes membership for all 7 members and 2 staff, plus 2 subscriptions to the MACC e-handbook for staff.
But wait, there's more.
But if you guys want your own subscription to the e-handbook, that's another $20 a head. So just let me know and I can add it, but.
Speak now.
Well, today's in town, $20.
I'm all set.
I don't need it, no.
You good? I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Can't read.
So I move the item as drafted.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye. You got to vote on that? Don't have to vote on that, good.
All set. That
Okay,
was, that was
thank you.
also unanimous.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, now it's decision time.
Decision time.
242-1893.
Yes, 597 Foster. All right, I'm gonna hit the bathroom while they read.
A lot of yellow here, Amy.
I don't know.
Now, what time can you get there?
Name that tune and we'll see.
What time? 9.
What do you think?
Number 58. It says the rain garden shall be maintained in perpetuity. Shouldn't they put like the rain garden should be maintained by the owner?
Sure.
Amy, number 58,
58.
it says the rain garden shall be maintained in perpetuity
Oh.
by the homeowner?
Yeah.
So you're just saying
By the
add.
homeowner?
You're saying add homeowner.
Add homeowner,
By homeowner. Because in perpetuity by whom?
yeah.
Okay. And I don't think, Joe, I think maybe you said we don't really need it O&M.
Yeah, but you know what? You guys all disagree with me, I hope, because I think we leave it in here.
I'll tell you what, I'm good either way, but it doesn't, I don't think it matters.
It's not gonna be elaborate, but I think they should probably tell us about how
It's
they
just a
intend to
point
do
of
it.
failure, that's all. It's
Yeah.
another point of failure.
Yeah. Okay. How's the,
60 is incorrect. That's gotta come out, or rephrase
oh,
it.
okay.
There is dewatering
No,
on this.
okay.
Yeah, they were, when they build that foundation for the addition, they're gonna be down 5 feet below grade.
Yep,
To
okay.
bottom of footing, and
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a little bit more for stone, depending on what they find, so.
Okay.
They're gonna be in water.
And then I'll just say that means and methods have to be provided to me and set up at the time of pre-construction.
Was it dewatering thing on the plan?
P-
Or not?
No.
I think she showed She certainly showed material
Oh, did-
stockpile in the driveway. And
Yeah.
I don't think she showed you watering.
No,
No, you do your pre-construction, Amy, designate an area,
yeah,
so they'll, and it has to be put in, not
yes,
after the fact.
that's right. Yep.
Everybody give us 5,000?
So, I am, yeah, I think 5,000.
I don't know,
I
I
am.
just feel like
Yeah.
we're so close to the wetlands. Oh, boy.
All right, anybody have any more questions?
So that condition 60 that we just rephrased, is that gonna be a pre-construction condition or during construction?
No,
Or
it'll
both?
be pre,
Pre, so you're always gonna move that.
yep.
Yep.
We move that we grant the order of conditions for DEP file 242-1893 as drafted and amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
All right.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second, third.
fourth, fifth. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Determination.
Nothing in-